The void was silent, but every soldier in the human fleet could feel the weight of death pressing on their shoulders. Out there, just beyond the asteroid belt, the alien armada was gathering like a dark storm. Their ships stretched farther than the human eye could count, glowing with strange colors and powered by weapons humanity barely understood. Everyone expected the humans to run. For weeks, the Galactic Council had ordered the same command. Retreat, humans. Save what is left of your colonies. Survival is better than destruction. But on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Resolute, a decision was about to change history. Admiral Elias Kane, tall, gray-haired, and scarred by decades of war, stared at the war screens. Around him, officers whispered nervously. They all waited for him to say the words that would end it. Fall back. Withdraw. Surrender the edge. But Kane's voice broke the silence. No retreat. We fight here. First, no one moved. The words seemed unreal. With one command, Kane had chosen defiance against both the alien invaders and the mighty council itself. His officers looked at each other, some with fear, some with fire in their eyes. Slowly, their hands tightened on their stations. Humanity had chosen its path. The enemy commander, Serix of the Zorith Dominion, received the human transmission. He was a towering reptilian creature, his eyes glowing with cold amusement. He let out a low hiss that echoed through his warship. So the humans wish to die, he mocked, his fanged mouth curling into a grin. Then let us make their end memorable. His armada shifted formation, a sea of steel and plasma cannons. Their ships blotted out the stars, advancing like an unstoppable tide. To them, humans were only insects, loud, stubborn, but fragile. Back aboard the Resolute, Captain Mira Alvarez tightened her grip on her console. Her brother's ship had been destroyed 2 weeks earlier. She still remembered his last words before static filled the comms. Tell them, no surrender. That memory burned in her heart now, giving her strength as the alien fleet crept closer. Enemy ships will be in range in 7 minutes, her officer reported. The bridge crew shifted nervously. 7 minutes until the storm broke. 7 minutes until history decided if humanity would vanish or endure. Admiral Kane finally spoke again, opening a channel to every ship in the fleet. His voice was calm, but it carried a fire that ignited hearts. People of Earth, soldiers of humanity, you all know what waits for us. The Council believes we are finished. The enemy thinks we are weak, but we are not weak. Humanity has never been weak. Every world we lost, every life taken, has led us here. Today, we show the galaxy who we truly are. He paused, and his next words came like iron. We will not retreat. We will not bow. We will fight until our last breath. Let the galaxy remember this day as the day humanity stood unbroken. Across the fleet, voices rose in answer. Pilots shouted inside their cockpits. Engineers banged their fists on steel consoles. Veterans whispered prayers, and young cadets clenched their teeth. One cry united them all. No retreat. The alien armada advanced, their weapons charging, their confidence absolute. They had crushed greater empires than Earth's. To them, this battle was already won. But the human fleet began to move in strange patterns. Old freighters turned like shields. Light frigates darted between cruisers. It looked chaotic, even desperate. But there was something hidden beneath the madness. Alien scanners reported faint, unstable energy signatures, unknown technology waiting to be unleashed. Serix frowned, his amusement fading. What are they planning? On the Resolute, Captain Myra's voice cracked through the comms, steady and sharp. All ships hold formation. Do not break ranks. No matter what happens, we stand together. The countdown reached its final seconds. Officers stared at their screens. Pilots gripped their controls, sweat dripping down their brows. Families back on Earth watched the broadcast, tears in their eyes, whispering silent prayers. Then the first shot came. A blazing line of plasma tore across the darkness, slamming into a human destroyer. The ship exploded in brilliant fire, fragments scattering into space. The battle had begun. Alien cannons opened in unison, pouring death into the void. Explosions bloomed like fiery suns, one after another. Human shields groaned, hulls cracked, alarms screamed. Yet, even as ships burned, none turned away. On the bridge of the Resolute, Kane stood tall, unflinching. His eyes never left the stars. "Phase 1, he ordered, his voice steady. "Begin." All at once, hidden compartments opened across the human fleet. Energy surged through ancient ships thought to be broken. Weapons humanity had never shown. The galaxy roared to life. The aliens froze in shock. This was no retreat. This was the beginning of a fight they had not expected. And so, at the edge of space where humanity was supposed to die, the real battle began. The alien warlord Cerex leaned back in his massive throne-like chair. His warship's bridge was dark, lit only by the glow of holographic screens. The Zorith Dominion's fleet stretched across the stars behind him. Endless rows of cruisers, destroyers, and dreadnoughts, each carrying enough firepower to level a planet. On the screen before him, the human fleet looked tiny, like insects surrounded by predators. Their ships were battered, outdated, many of them little more than patched-up wrecks. Yet, they did not retreat. Cerex smirked, his long fangs flashing under the dim light. "Pathetic creatures," he hissed to his commanders. "They think courage changes fate. They think defiance gives them strength. Let them have their little moment. We will crush them slowly, so they understand the price of arrogance." His officers bowed in agreement. To the Zorith, war was not only conquest, it was entertainment. Breaking a species' spirit, watching their hope crumble, was as satisfying as the victory itself. But not everyone shared his amusement. Across the galaxy, members of the Galactic Council watched the same feed with unease. They had expected humanity to withdraw, to obey their orders. Instead, humans had chosen to fight. The Council feared what this act of defiance might mean. If humanity survived even one more battle against the Zorith, they would no longer be seen as fragile. They would be seen as dangerous. Back on Earth's flagship Resolute, Captain Mira Alvarez scanned the tactical display. The aliens were advancing in perfect formation, their confidence written in every movement. They weren't rushing. They weren't cautious. They were amused. "The enemy is toying with us?" Mira muttered, her hands clenched into fists. "They don't see us as a threat." Admiral Kane's expression remained hard, but his eyes carried a hidden spark. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them laugh. Their arrogance will be their weakness." The alien fleet slowed its pace slightly, like predators circling prey. Cerex opened a channel, his voice booming across every human comm system. "Humans," he drawled, every word dripping with contempt. "You have chosen death. The galaxy offered you survival, yet you spit on the hand of mercy. For this insult, I will make your end a lesson for all. When your last ship burns, when your homeworld trembles under my claws, the galaxy will know the cost of defying the Dominion." The voice filled every ship. Soldiers and officers felt a chill. Some gritted their teeth in fury, others swallowed their fear. But none spoke. Instead, they waited for their admiral's response. Admiral Kane answered with calm steel. "We do not kneel, Cerex. We do not break. You may have numbers, but we have something you will never understand." Cerex tilted his head, amused. "And what is that, human?" "Hope," Kane said simply, "and the will to fight when others surrender." For a moment, silence stretched across the comms. Then Cerex laughed, a deep, mocking laugh that echoed through the void. "Hope? Words will not shield you from my cannons. We will erase your kind, and your hope will scatter like dust." He cut the channel. The alien bridge roared with cruel laughter, every officer sharing their warlord's delight. To them, the humans were already dead, they just hadn't realized it yet. But aboard the Resolute, the humans did not break. Captain Mira spoke softly, but her voice was firm. "He underestimates us. That smirk will vanish when he learns what we've prepared." Around her, the crew exchanged looks. They knew what she meant. Hidden within the human fleet were secrets no alien had yet seen. modified weapons, stealth systems, and ships thought to be destroyed long ago. Humanity had been waiting for this moment, and Serex's arrogance was the cover they needed. The alien fleet began their first assault run. Giant cannons glowed, preparing to unleash plasma fire strong enough to melt through human shields in seconds. The enemy ships moved with eerie coordination, like one living beast. But instead of panicking, the human fleet shifted again, falling into what looked like disarray. To Serex's scanners, it appeared desperate, ships scattering, lines breaking, defenses weakening. Pathetic, Serex sneered. They are running already. Yet Kane's eyes never wavered. Every move had been planned. The humans weren't scattering in fear, they were positioning for Phase 2. Back on Earth, billions watched through trembling screens. Families huddled together in silence, their breaths caught in their throats. Children whispered questions their parents could not answer. Will they come back? Will we be safe? The only comfort was the sight of the fleet still standing. Humanity had refused to retreat, and that single act of courage inspired hope in every corner of Earth. In orbit, the tension thickened. Alien ships glowed brighter, weapons ready to fire. The smirk on Serex's face widened as he leaned forward, savoring the moment. Begin, he commanded. A storm of fire erupted from the alien fleet, thousands of plasma bolts screaming across the void. Human shields cracked, alarms blared, and the black sky lit up with explosions. A destroyer was ripped apart in seconds, its crew vanishing in fire. Serex's smirk turned into a grin. So fragile, so weak. They will crumble before the hour ends. But in the chaos, a strange pattern emerged. Human ships that looked broken suddenly turned, covering one another with precise timing. Frigates shielded cruisers, gunships darted through weak spots, and signals pulsed quietly across the fleet. Myra's heart pounded. They don't see it yet, she whispered. They think we're falling apart, but we're not. We're leading them into the trap. On the Resolute, Admiral Kane finally gave the next order, his voice cold and steady. Hold the line. Let them laugh. Soon, the smirk will fade. And as the alien fleet pressed closer, still arrogant, still amused, humanity prepared to strike back. The real game had just begun. The first plasma bolts screamed across the darkness like falling stars. Explosions ripped through the human front line, turning the black void into a battlefield of burning light. Hulls shattered. Shields cracked like glass. A destroyer named Halcyon split in two, its dying crew sending one last message. For Earth, hold the line. The enemy's laughter echoed across the void. To the Zorith Armada, it was all going exactly as expected. They had seen weak species crumble before, and humanity would be no different. Their fleet advanced with calm confidence, layer upon layer of steel and fire pressing down on the smaller human formation. But what looked like chaos was not chaos at all. From the Resolute's command deck, Admiral Kane studied the shifting patterns. His ships weren't breaking apart. They were weaving into a dance. Gunships darted between wreckage, frigates shielded cruisers, and carriers angled themselves in strange ways that made little sense to alien eyes. But every turn, every move had been placed with precision. Admiral, Captain Mira Alvarez reported, her voice sharp over the noise of alarms. Front line is collapsing. We've already lost 4 destroyers. The enemy will push through in minutes. Not if we guide them, Kane said quietly. His eyes narrowed as enemy ships poured forward. They think they're chasing prey. They don't realize we're leading them into the fire. On Earth, billions held their breath. The live broadcast showed fire tearing across the human fleet. To ordinary eyes, it looked like disaster. Newscasters whispered grimly. Families wept. The council smirked, believing they had been proven right. Humanity should have retreated. But in the shadows of the fleet, hidden signals pulsed. Pilots exchanged coded phrases. Engineers adjusted power flows. Small, almost invisible drones released from hidden ports began drifting between ships. Slowly, a net was being spun, unseen by alien scanners. Meanwhile, inside the Zorith flagship, Serex leaned forward, his smirk wide. They are breaking, he said, his voice filled with cruel satisfaction. Look how their ships scatter. They cannot even hold a formation. His second-in-command, a lean reptilian officer, frowned slightly. My lord, their movement is strange. It does not look like panic. Serex's eyes narrowed for a moment, but then his grin returned. It does not matter. Strange or not, they burn all the same. Another wave of fire lashed out. Human cruisers shook under the impact. One battleship, the Iron Star, lost power and drifted helplessly, its hull venting air and bodies into the void. Still, even in death, it turned just enough to shield two smaller ships behind it. On the Resolute, Mira clenched her fists, her voice hard. We're losing too many. Admiral Kane did not look away from the tactical map. The alien fleet was pushing exactly where he wanted them. The humans were bleeding, yes, but the sacrifice was shaping the battlefield. Not too many, he said quietly. Just enough. The enemy advanced deeper, ships spreading wide to encircle the human fleet. It was the same tactic they had used 100 times against weaker races. But this time, the trap was not set for humans. The trap was set for them. Then, at last, Kane gave the order. Signal Black Fang Squadron. Release the fire. From behind asteroid shadows and shattered wreckage, a group of sleek human ships suddenly roared to life. They had been hidden in silence, their energy signatures masked by the chaos of the battle. Now they moved as one, fast, sharp, deadly. The alien commanders shouted in alarm as the Black Fang Squadron cut straight into their flank. Plasma fire erupted, but the human ships danced through it, firing torpedoes that detonated inside the heart of alien formations. Explosions blossomed across the void, wiping away the enemy's smirk. Serex slammed a clawed hand onto his armrest. Where did those ships come from? No one had an answer. To alien sensors, the ships had not existed moments before. And yet here they were, ripping apart the Dominion's pride. Back on the Resolute, Captain Myra's eyes widened. Direct hits. Enemy cruisers falling back. Kane's voice remained calm, though the fire in his eyes burned brighter. This is only the beginning. Keep pressing them. Every second they spend confused is a second we take from their strength. The void was chaos now. Alien ships tried to reform, but the humans struck with precision, using every piece of wreckage, every asteroid, every dying ship as part of their deadly game. Fighters swarmed like angry bees, baiting the aliens into overextending. Carriers unleashed hidden drone swarms that blinded enemy sensors. Still, the cost was heavy. Human ships exploded one after another, their crews vanishing in fire and silence. The fleet was bleeding, and every soldier knew it. Yet not one ship turned away. Not one pilot begged for retreat. Inside her cockpit, Lieutenant Arya Chun dodged fire, her small fighter trembling under the strain. Her voice cracked over comms, but it carried strength. I don't care how many they send. I'm not leaving. If this is where we die, then we die showing them humanity never bows. Her wingman answered with a laugh, even through the chaos. Then let's make it one hell of a death. On the alien flagship, Serex's smirk finally faded. His voice, once dripping with confidence, now snapped with anger. Destroy them. Crush every last one. But it was too late. The fire in the void was no longer one-sided. Humanity had turned their despair into fury, their weakness into a weapon. And as the battle raged, one truth became clear. This was not the end of humanity. It was only the beginning of their legend. The void burned. Explosions flashed like dying stars, scattering wreckage and bodies into the endless dark. Humanity's fleet had held longer than anyone believed possible. But the cost was brutal. Ships were gone. Entire crews lost. The Iron Star, the Halcyon, the Vanguard. All names now whispered as ghosts across the comms. And yet, the humans still fought. On the alien flagship, Serex leaned forward. His smirk faded into a scowl. His claws tapped angrily against the steel of his throne. Why do they still resist? He growled. They are broken, outnumbered, outgunned. They should already be dust. His officers said nothing. None dared remind him of the truth. The humans had fought harder than any race the Dominion had ever faced. They weren't supposed to last this long, and something about the way they moved, it unsettled them. Back aboard the Resolute, Captain Mira Alvarez wiped blood from a cut on her forehead. The last blast had thrown half the crew to the floor. Systems flickered. Oxygen leaks screamed in the background. But her eyes were steady, fixed on the Admiral. "Sir," she said, her voice sharp through the chaos. "We can't take much more. Shields are collapsing across the fleet. We're at the edge." Admiral Kane stood tall at the center of the bridge. His uniform was torn, his face lined with exhaustion, but his voice remained unshaken. "That's where humanity is strongest," he replied. "At the edge." A silent signal pulsed through the fleet. Small lights blinked on consoles. Pilots and engineers glanced at one another, understanding dawning. For weeks, whispers had spread through the fleet, rumors of something hidden, something dangerous, something that could only be used once. Now the order had come. On the dark edge of the battlefield, beyond drifting wrecks and shattered asteroids, shadows began to stir. Ships thought to be destroyed in earlier battles suddenly shimmered into view. Vast outlines emerged from cloaking fields, their armor black and scarred, their cannons glowing with silent power. It was the Ghost Fleet. The aliens gasped as their scanners struggled to adjust. Massive vessels, invisible until this moment, revealed themselves like monsters rising from the deep. Each one carried weapons forbidden by the Council, technology so secret even most humans didn't know it existed. Serex's eyes widened. For the first time, his smirk was gone completely. "What is this?" he roared. "Those ships were destroyed. They cannot exist." But they did. From Earth's hidden shipyards, built in silence under the Council's nose, the Ghost Fleet had been forged. Ships rebuilt from old wrecks, enhanced with stolen alien tech, equipped with weapons humanity was never meant to wield. They had waited, hidden, for this very moment. On the Resolute, Captain Myra's eyes shone. "They're here," she whispered. "The Council told us they were gone. But they survived." Admiral Kane's face hardened. "No, Captain. They didn't just survive. They were reborn." Then, with a voice that shook every comm channel, Kane gave the command, "Ghost Fleet, fire." The void erupted. From the shadows, beams of raw energy lanced into the Dominion Armada. Alien dreadnoughts shattered under the first volley, torn apart before they even had time to raise their shields. Entire lines of cruisers vanished in explosions, their wreckage spinning into the abyss. Human soldiers cheered, their cries mixing with the thunder of battle. For the first time, the tide had turned. On his throne, Serex gripped the armrests until the metal bent beneath his claws. Rage burned in his eyes. Impossible! No primitive race could build such weapons. But deep down, he understood. Humanity had done what no one expected. They had defied the Council, defied the Dominion, defied death itself. The aliens scrambled to regroup, but their formations collapsed under the sudden onslaught. The Ghost Fleet moved with precision, cutting deep into enemy lines. For every human ship lost, 2 alien vessels fell. The once smirking invaders now shouted in panic, their comms filled with disbelief. Back on Earth, billions erupted in joy. Families cried tears of hope as they watched the impossible happen. News anchors shouted, unable to hide their excitement. For the first time in living memory, humanity wasn't just surviving, they were winning. But Admiral Kane knew better than to celebrate early. His eyes narrowed as he studied the battlefield. The Ghost Fleet was powerful, but its energy reserves were limited. Every shot drained its hidden cores. They could not fight forever. "Use the ghosts wisely," he warned across the channels. "This weapon is our blade, but also our burden. Strike hard. Strike fast." Captain Mira nodded, her hands flying across her console. "Understood. We'll make every shot count." The alien fleet staggered under the assault, their arrogance burned away in fire. Serex's voice roared across his bridge, filled with fury. "Focus all weapons on those hidden ships. I want them destroyed. Now!" His fleet obeyed, turning their fire toward the ghosts. But it was too late. The humans had revealed their secret, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As explosions lit up the void, Myra's voice rang out over the comms. They thought we were weak. They thought we would run. Now they know the truth. Her words were drowned out by thunder as the Ghost Fleet fired again, tearing through the heart of the Dominion Armada. And in that moment, humanity proved to the stars that they had always been more than anyone believed. They were not prey. They were not fragile. They were the fire in the void. The void still burned with fire from the Ghost Fleet's surprise strike. Human warships, once thought too weak to stand, now carved through the Dominion's armada with deadly precision. For the first time in the war, the alien formation faltered. Their ships scattered. Their captains shouted in panic, and Serex's once smirking face twisted with rage. But far from the battlefield, another storm was brewing. Inside the shining halls of the Galactic Council, dozens of alien leaders watched the live battle on massive screens. Their voices rose in alarm, anger, and fear. These were the rulers who had told humanity to retreat, who had warned them that resistance was pointless. And now they watched, stunned, as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. They disobeyed our orders, hissed one insectoid delegate, his wings trembling. They are using forbidden technology, growled a scaled ambassador. Those ships were supposed to be destroyed. If they win, whispered another, humanity will no longer be under our control. They will rise too powerful. The council chamber filled with fear, not of the Dominion, but of humanity itself. Back on the Resolute, Captain Mira Alvarez monitored the chaos. Alien ships were falling back, but her heart knew the fight was far from over. Energy readings showed the Ghost Fleet's reserves were draining fast. They could not keep firing forever. Admiral Kane stood at the center, silent as stone. His eyes weren't on the Dominion fleet. They were on the incoming transmission flashing across his screen. It was from the Galactic Council. The chamber appeared before him in holographic light, filled with alien faces twisted in fury. Their voices crashed over each other. Admiral Kane, you will cease this madness. You have broken interstellar law. Deactivate those ships immediately. One delegate slammed a claw on the table. If you continue, humanity will not only fight the Dominion. You will fight the Council itself. The threat hung heavy in the air. For a moment, the Resolute's bridge fell silent. Officers exchanged nervous glances. The Council had always been the ultimate authority, the power above all species. To defy them was to risk annihilation by every great fleet in the galaxy. Captain Mira whispered, her voice tight. If we stop now, everything we've lost, everything we've fought for, it will mean nothing. Admiral Kane's face was unreadable. Then slowly he spoke, his words cutting like steel. Counselors, for years we bled while you turned your eyes away. We begged for help when our colonies burned, and you gave us silence. You told us to bow, to retreat, to accept slavery. But humanity does not kneel. The council chamber erupted in shouts, but Kane's voice thundered over them. We fight today not just for Earth, but for every species you abandoned. We fight for survival. And if you call that rebellion, then so be it. Humanity chooses freedom over your chains. He cut the transmission. On the Resolute, silence lingered for a moment, then cheers erupted. Officers clapped fists to their chests. Pilots shouted in defiance. And across the fleet, morale soared. They were no longer just fighting the Dominion. They were breaking free of the Council's shadow. But the cost of that choice was immediate. Council fleets orbiting nearby systems began to stir. Human intelligence officers intercepted encrypted messages. They're moving ships, Mira reported, her voice grim. Not toward the Dominion, toward us. Admiral Kane closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with fierce resolve. So be it. Let them come. Better to face them here, with fire in our hearts, than live forever on our knees. Meanwhile, the Dominion regrouped. Serex, still raging, realized humanity had no allies left. If the Council turned against them, then victory could still be his. His smirk returned, though thinner, darker. Good, he hissed. Let the humans burn from both sides. We will crush their fleet, and the Council will finish what we begin. Back on Earth, fear spread as the truth reached the people. The Council, once seen as a protector, had revealed itself as a chain around humanity's neck. But instead of despair, a strange fire spread through the world. Citizens marched in the streets, chanting the same words echoing across the fleet. No retreat, no chains. Children painted the ghost fleet on walls. Workers gave their rations to soldiers' families. Farmers sent food to the front lines. For the first time, Earth stood united, not under the Council's authority, but under their own courage. On the battlefield, Admiral Kane issued his final command for the day. His voice, calm yet blazing, filled every ship. We stand between two enemies, the Dominion before us, the Council behind us. But hear me now, this is humanity's moment. We will not run. We will not bow. If we must fight the whole galaxy, then we will fight until the last star dies. The fleet roared in answer. No retreat. No chains. As the Dominion's firepower built for a desperate counterattack, and the Council's fleets began to move in secret, the stage was set for the deadliest storm humanity had ever faced. But Kane's eyes burned with certainty. Chains could be broken. Tyrants could fall. And humanity, fragile, stubborn, defiant humanity, would show the galaxy what it meant to fight free. The battlefield was no longer a place of order. It was chaos and fire. Wreckage floated across the void, glowing with the last heat of dying engines. Human ships and alien dreadnoughts both lay broken, their twisted metal drifting in silence. The war had become a storm, and in that storm, humanity refused to vanish. But the cost was rising with every heartbeat. The Resolute shook under another blast, alarms screaming. Captain Mira Alvarez steadied herself against the console, her hands bleeding from broken glass. Around her, officers worked furiously, sweat running down their faces, fear in their eyes. Shields failing, one shouted. Hull breaches in Section 12, another cried. Myra's voice stayed sharp. Seal the breaches. Reroute power. Hold the line. Across the fleet, sacrifices were being made. Crews in crippled ships rammed themselves into enemy vessels, detonating their reactors to take the invaders with them. Pilots with no ammunition left turned their fighters into missiles, burning in streaks of light as they tore through alien hulls. Every death screamed one truth into the void. Humanity would not surrender. On the alien flagship, Sarek snarled as yet another of his cruisers exploded. He had thought this battle would be a display of dominance. Instead, it had turned into a nightmare. Humanity fought with a madness he had never seen. They bled willingly, as if death itself was their weapon. They throw away their lives, one of his officers hissed. It makes no sense. Sarek's eyes burned. It makes them dangerous. Meanwhile, the Ghost Fleet pressed on, but their hidden energy reserves were running dry. One by one, their massive cannons fell silent. Their shadows in the void grew weaker. Admiral Kane knew the truth. If the ghosts fell, the Dominion would regain the advantage. He opened a channel to all ships. His voice was steady, but heavy with the weight of what must come. Soldiers of Earth, you know what this moment demands. We cannot win with numbers. We cannot win with power. We win with sacrifice. Every ship, every soul counts. If you must give your life today, then give it proudly. For every second you hold, Earth breathes another moment of freedom. His words traveled through every cabin, every cockpit. Tears filled the eyes of pilots and gunners, but none wavered. They knew what was asked. On the Valiant, a massive cruiser at the front line, Captain Rourke heard the order. His ship was already crippled, fires raging inside, half his crew dead. His engineers begged him to fall back. But Rourke smiled, even as blood dripped down his face. No, we go forward. Tell them. The Valiant does not retreat. With a final command, he drove his burning ship directly into the largest Dominion dreadnought. The collision lit up the void with a sun-bright explosion. Both ships vanished in fire, leaving silence where giants had stood. Across the human fleet, Cheers and tears mixed together. They had lost another captain, another ship, but he had taken the enemy's monster with him. On Earth, billions wept as they saw the broadcast. Families cried for the names of ships that no longer answered. But even in grief, pride burned. Fathers whispered to their children, "Remember their names. They died so you can live free." Back on the Resolute, Mira wiped her eyes, forcing her voice steady. "Admiral, we've lost nearly half the fleet." Kane's jaw tightened. "And yet we stand." But deep inside, he knew the truth. They could not hold forever. Unless someone made the final sacrifice, the Dominion's sheer numbers would eventually crush them. Then came the moment. A new wave of alien ships broke through, larger than the last, their cannons aimed straight for the Resolute. If the flagship fell, the fleet would collapse. The battle and humanity's hope would end. Without waiting for orders, Commander Elias Ward, captain of the smaller frigate Honor's Flame, cut across the comms. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Admiral, it's been an honor. We'll clear the path." Before anyone could stop him, the Honor's Flame surged forward, engines screaming. It intercepted the alien barrage head-on, its hull disintegrating in a storm of fire. The explosion blocked the Dominion's advance, buying the Resolute precious minutes. Myra's voice broke. He knew he wouldn't survive. Admiral Kane lowered his head for a moment, his heart heavy. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "That is what it means to be human." Even Serix felt the weight of it. Watching the humans destroy themselves to save others unsettled him more than their weapons. "They are insane," he muttered. "No species fights like this." But deep down, he feared the truth. This was why humanity could not be broken. As the battle raged on, sacrifices piled higher. Crews abandoned safety, rushing into fire to repair failing systems. Pilots turned final breaths into weapons. Captains gave their lives without hesitation. And through that blood, through that endless sacrifice, humanity still stood. The Dominion roared with fury. The Council moved its fleets closer. The galaxy held its breath. And Admiral Kane whispered to his crew, his voice steady as the void burned around them. "This is not the end. Every drop of blood we give today writes our story into the stars. Humanity will endure. Even if I must be the last to fall, we will endure." The sacrifice was not over. The final storm was yet to come. The battlefield was a graveyard of burning steel. Human ships and Dominion dreadnoughts drifted side by side, both shattered, both silent. The void, once filled with the thunder of war, now flickered with dying flames and broken signals. The cost was unimaginable. Half of humanity's fleet was gone. Entire crews had given their lives to buy a few more minutes, a little more hope. But against all odds, humanity still stood. Admiral Elias Kane stared at the tactical screen, his hands tight behind his back. The Dominion's numbers had been broken, their formation shattered by the Ghost Fleet and the endless human sacrifices. Serix's flagship, however, still burned bright in the distance, its massive cannons charging for a final strike. "This ends now," Kane said quietly. On the bridge, Captain Mira Alvarez nodded, her face pale but determined. Her eyes moved across the wounded crew, men and women covered in blood and ash, yet refusing to leave their posts. She whispered almost to herself, "If we fall here, Earth falls with us. We can't let that happen." The last human ships formed a line, scarred but unbroken. Fighters limped forward with cracked wings. Cruisers burned but kept firing. Even the Ghost Fleet, nearly drained of power, prepared one final volley. Humanity had nothing left to give, except everything. Serix stood tall on his flagship, fury boiling in his chest. His smirk was gone, replaced by a snarl of hatred. "Enough! End them! Burn their flagship to ash!" His fleet obeyed. A storm of fire screamed across the void, aimed directly at the Resolute. "Impact in 30 seconds, Mira shouted. For a heartbeat, the crew froze. There was no way to stop so much fire. No shields could hold. No armor could endure. Then a voice broke the silence. It was Commander Jalen, captain of the crippled carrier Eternal Dawn. His voice was calm, almost serene. "Admiral, let us be the wall." Before Kane could answer, the Eternal Dawn moved. Engines roared as the massive carrier, already torn apart, pushed itself directly into the path of the alien barrage. The crew knew what it meant, but none tried to escape. Their ship became a shield, absorbing the fire meant for the flagship. The explosion lit up the void like a second sun. The Eternal Dawn was gone, but the Resolute still lived. Tears blurred Myra's vision. They gave everything. Kane's voice was steady, but grief weighed heavy in his tone. "And now we finish it." The Ghost Fleet gathered its last reserves. Every capacitor, every reactor, every spark of stolen alien tech was pushed beyond its limit. Lights flickered, systems screamed, and then one final strike. A volley of energy beams lanced out, brighter than lightning, tearing into Serex's flagship. The Dominion's greatest ship shook, its shields collapsing, its armor breaking apart. Fire ripped through its decks as entire sections exploded outward. On his throne, Serex roared in defiance. Even as his flagship burned, he refused to bow. "I will not be beaten by insects," he bellowed. With his last strength, he commanded his ship to fire. A massive cannon unleashed a final blast, ripping straight into one of the Ghost Fleet's giants. The ship shattered instantly, its wreckage drifting into the void. Humanity had lost another, but Serex's victory was short. His flagship cracked in half, fire consuming it from within. The last image transmitted across the battlefield was his face twisted in rage, before it vanished in a blinding explosion. The Dominion fleet, seeing their warlord destroyed, faltered. Some tried to fight on, but most scattered, fleeing into the dark. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had stood against the galaxy's most feared army, and won. The Resolute drifted in silence, its crew staring at the wreckage of the Dominion. No one cheered. The price was too high for celebration. Myra's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "So many gone. So many names never coming home." Admiral Kane bowed his head. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the weight of every life lost, every sacrifice made. Then, slowly, he lifted his gaze to the stars. "Transmit to Earth," he said. "Tell them humanity stands." Across the homeworld, the message spread. Cities erupted in tears, in cries, in prayers. Parents held their children tighter, knowing those who had fallen had bought them another day of freedom. Streets filled with voices chanting the same words that echoed across the fleet. No retreat, no chains. Humanity endures. In the halls of the Galactic Council, silence reigned. The mighty delegates, who had once dismissed Earth as weak, now trembled at the truth. Humanity had defied the Dominion. Humanity had defied the Council. And humanity had carved victory in fire. On the bridge of the Resolute, Kane stood beside Mira. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of eternity. They will never forget this day. Not the Council. Not the Dominion. Not the stars themselves. Mira nodded, her eyes glistening. Because today, humanity proved it belongs among them. Outside the viewport, the wreckage of battle drifted like monuments to the fallen. Thousands of brave souls, carved forever into history. The galaxy would remember their sacrifice, and it would remember the truth written in fire. Humanity does not retreat. Humanity endures.